time and keep everything fair to everybody.
Would anyone from the public like to address the board?
Good evening, thank you for Cyber Drive.
Red button, is it red?
It's on.
I think we're all set for the community roundtable session tomorrow. I did want to just say that I'm very much looking forward to it. I think it's as organized as we can make it in a relatively short amount of time, and with the degree of uncertainty about how many people we will have attending tomorrow. So I just wanted to come here at John's suggestion and just make sure that there weren't any questions about the guidelines for the meeting. So seeing none, I think we're all set for tomorrow. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Alyssa L., 27 Barbary Street. Madam Chair, are we, the public, to assume that the last item you voted on after your non-public session was on teacher nominations?
Yes, that was the item we voted on.
Madam Chair, is it not a conflict of interest for Mr. Liskars to second and vote on his wife's nomination to the staff? Is this not in violation of HSD file BCB, specifically a board member who has a personal or private interest in a matter proposed or pending before the board will disclose such interest to the board, will not deliberate on the matter, will not vote on the matter, and will not attempt to influence other members of the board regarding the matter. Additionally, board members should refrain from engaging in conduct or actions that give the appearance of conflict of interest, embarrass the board, or personally embarrass another board member. By voting in favor of this motion, it increased Mrs. Liskars' salary. Mr. Liskars is fully aware of this policy because at the 4-2 meeting, he stated at 1:02:33 on the video that his wife was a teacher and cannot be the board member on the calendar committee. Furthermore, Mr. Pearl has violated the same policy by publicly stating that Cheryl Axton does not come prepared for board meetings, also on 4-2. The fact that you come unprepared is not my problem, quote, unquote, at 1:53:42 on the video. Specifically or personally embarrass another board member. Not only was she embarrassed, but we the public were also embarrassed. Respectfully submitted, Alyssa L. Thank you.
Dr. Littlefield, could I ask a question? How would we handle something like that? Would we refer a question like that to our lawyer or to the Attorney General? I don't know if it's a conflict.
Well, Madam Chair, we're looking for that now.
And I'm a member of the public, and I have a question for the superintendent, and I just asked it.
We're not sitting in the public in the table, Madam Chair. Would you like me to take over the meeting? Thank you. Mrs. Corpus.
Dr. Littlefield, would that question be referred to our attorney or to the Attorney General of the state of New Hampshire? Because that coming to our attention puts us all in jeopardy of that vote affecting our teachers.
Mrs. Corpus, we will respond to those questions as we do all public input questions at an agenda item that's on our agenda.
Okay.
Chairman, I just have a question.
Why don't you pose it to the chair?
Mr. Liskars.
If you wouldn't mind asking the citizen what specific policy she was saying I was in violation of, just for my own research.
Absolutely.
BCD. I have it highlighted here and I have a copy for you if you'd like it.
Would you like her to present you the copy?
No, I'm fine, Madam Chair. Actually, I got my copy from Dr. Littlefield, and I'm very happy with that copy.
Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address the board?
My name is Jack Sweeney. I've been a resident of Hooksett since 2003. I have 4 children, one graduating this year from Trinity, a 12-year-old in 7th grade at Colley, a 10-year-old in 5th grade at Memorial, and a 2nd grade at Underhill. A 7-year-old in 2nd grade at Underhill. I'm here today to discuss what I perceive to be an amazing lack of professionalism, transparency, action, and a high level of bullying, backroom dealings, bizarre behavior, and outright arrogance that I've witnessed by some of the school board. I will admit, until recently, I've been a passive observer of this board and of the school situation in Hooksett. Other than the high school situation and how it affects my family, I started to pay more attention to this last election as the main issue at hand was the high school situation we're in. Since the election, I've been keeping up with the board meetings, talking to my fellow residents, and solidifying my opinion of the right direction we should be taking as a town. What I've seen, read, and heard is this board focusing on issues that have absolutely nothing to do with educating our children. I saw a 15-minute stretch at last meeting spent reading a lengthy motion and debating who should be working on digitizing the policy book. I've seen countless emails requesting a copy of the contract between Dr. Littlefield and Hooksett that clearly doesn't exist, and no reason provided to request it other than the board member is new and wants to be up to speed, which is clearly not the true motive. I've seen crazy postings on public boards and social media by school board members, infighting between members on frivolous issues, hypocrisy beyond anything I've ever witnessed, people trying to bully other people, and most amazingly, such arrogance from elected officials who forgot they are here to serve the residents who elected them and not their personal agenda. You people are here to serve the best interests of our children and their education. I served as president of the Hooksett Hurricanes Pop Warner program. One of the things I understood immediately is that I could not make everybody happy, but I absolutely had to do what was in the best interest of the majority of the children participating. I need to seek counsel and other board members, listen to the families that were participating, and ultimately put whatever personal agenda or opinion I might have had aside to fulfill the obligation of the program. Some of you clearly have forgotten that and have made this about you and not the children. I suggest you get back to discussing and dealing with the very real challenges that face Hooksett education. Have open, honest, and transparent discussion of these issues. Put your personal agendas aside and focus on what is in the best for the majority of the children you are privileged to serve. I further suggest you look in the mirror and figure out the real reason you chose to serve on this board. If it is not to help provide the best education for our children, please resign and let those who are interested, willing, and clearly motivated to do so take over so that we can move forward. Finally, in regards to the open seat available on the board, you have your replacement, Jen Legere. I don't know Jen very well. I honestly don't know where she stands on a number of issues. In fact, I may disagree with her on some, but I have no doubt that she will give 100% to this board, be honest, open, and transparent in her dealings with the board and the public, and will put her personal agenda aside to make sound decisions that are in the best interest of the many, not the few or her own. Further, the town provided tremendous support for her in the last election, and to quote of all things, a Facebook post by the newest school board member regarding next year's open seat, quote, "I want to be clear that I will be voting for Jen Legere if she decides to run for the open seat," end quote. She has the support of the residents, and she clearly is the only choice to fill this open seat. She has not chosen the interest of this board to be further tarnished. I trust that you will vote to put Jen on this board, and I trust you will get back to doing what you were elected to do and stop this nonsense for this town and for our children. Thank you.
Mark Messina, 15 Barber Street, Hooksett. I don't have a prepared statement. I did, however, today read 480 pages of a PDF of emails back and forth, just full of petty bickering and bullying. In those pages, though, I saw more than 50 people state their desire for Jen Legere to be part of the board. And to reiterate what Mr. Sweeney said, if you don't heed the advice of your constituents, the board's image will be further tarnished. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Messina.
Steve Pastor, 6 Sergeant Drive. Many of us here tonight to show support for Jen Legere to replace Mr. Dubus's untimely resignation. Still, even more who could not attend tonight have sent email requests to the board recommending her approval. I have about 38 of them right here. And they were sent in before the cutoff of the packet was read. And I'm sure there were more after that I could add to this total. I hope that you strongly consider this groundswell of public support from Ms. Legere as she proved herself during the election, running a very close race against the Liskars. There appears to be some misinformation out there that Dr. Littlefield cut 2 teachers out of the budget. But in the November 2012 meeting minutes of the 20th, He's talking about reallocating teachers from Memorial to Colley and assigning a kindergarten teaching position into the K through 8 Common Core. Where's the cut there? The size of the classes seems to balance out with the reallocation of the teachers. Dr. Littlefield goes on to ask for an additional $100,000 cut from the 3 schools, making it a $33,000 reduction for each school. The feedback from the schools is that they could not make this additional cut without hurting staffing and programs. Dr. Littlefield then goes on to recommend not any layouts for teachers or no cuts to other programs. The cuts were talked about were in transportation and purchasing half of a math program. Where were the teachers being cut from? We move on to the April 2nd meeting, where Dr. Littlefield explains that the 3 retirements and the real allocation of the teachers to Colley from Memorial and moving the kindergarten teacher to Common Core facilitator, they would need to add a teacher from the outside. He goes on to a very clear explanation of how these meeting minutes on April 2nd, he goes on to a very clear explanation of this. However, the meeting minutes from April 2nd are about 2 sentences long and do not touch upon the important information that was discussed. I had to go back into the video of this because the minutes were incomplete. Note on the recording of the meeting, the discussion starts about 1 hour and 17 minutes into it, and about 1 hour and 20 minutes the explanation begins by Dr. Littlefield. Again, where are the teachers being cut from? Also, I admire that a school board member took it upon themselves to go back to watch the meeting video. Maybe they had a question that needed an answer. Maybe their time was put to good use catching that the minutes were incomplete or very important information was left out to the public to make an informed decision on. When it comes to light that the body language from the superintendent was the only issue found, this is where it gets worse. An open public email calling out the superintendent and demanding an apology is the answer. Where I do not condone the superintendent's behavior, I do not feel that it was handled in a way that built a working relationship between the board and the superintendent. Giving the benefit of the doubt and transparency aside, to give the, hey, I did not appreciate your behavior at the meeting, face to face would have gone a long way to keep the board from looking more dysfunctional than it really is. We're on the same team. Keep focused on the children of Hooksett.
Thank you, Mr. Costa.
Christy Castor, 6 Sergeant Drive. Dear Hooksett board members, reference to page 98 out of 480. It troubles me that you chastise a private citizen for openly speaking that the board has made no progress in the last year. It troubles me that you do not acknowledge that we are being left behind. Auburn and Candia have a different relationship with Manchester than we do. They have open communication. We do not. It troubles me that you again chastise a private citizen who is the mother of children in our schools regardless of a board member replacement process. It troubles me that you accuse a private citizen of unsubstantiated accusations at other members when they clearly do it themselves. It needs to stop. It troubles me that you shove transparency down our throats over the education of our children. It troubles me that you tell members of the public it is your pleasure providing open and transparent government, page 266 out of 480, but yet you refuse to disclose sources in your reasoning for withdrawing a request when asked by a superintendent of schools. Please refer to pages 175, 320, 321, and 390. That's double standard at its best. It needs to stop. It troubles me that you chastise board member Ms. Askin for coming unprepared to a meeting when he simply forgot to bring your charge printout. Refer to page 48 out of 480 in the video. It needs to stop. It troubles me that you hide behind your words to continuously refer to yourself. Page 403, the junior member. Refer to page 71 as a newly elected board member. Page 146 and 288, newly elected Hooksett School Board member. I'm a newly elected representative, page 147. And refer to page 273. Please excuse me, I'm new at this, as an excuse to persecute and dictate your own agenda to others. It needs to stop. It troubles me that some members of this
Madam
board...
Chair, point of order. When someone from the public addresses the board, do they not have to address you, not the board members directly?
All she's saying is it troubles her.
No, she's directing her comments at me. Specifically, she needs to direct them at you. If she wants to complain about me, she can.
I
She
have
needs to do
mentioned
that
no
through
name
you.
here. I
Okay.
mentioned a reference to the page number.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
It troubles me that some members of this board appear to wait in the wings for gotcha moments over the education of our children. It troubles me how a board member videotaped a recent Candia board meeting, but because it was going so well, you packed up and left. Was it because it was a positive meeting? And I'll quote a budget committee member calling it a lame love fest. Oddly, the 12-minute video was recently posted yesterday. It troubles me how you go back to review videos for the gotcha and nitpick moments over our children's education. Refer to page 288, when Dr. Littlefield excused our assistant superintendent in an email on behavior to the board dated April 12th from board member, Mr. Liskers, that should be posted in the next packet. This needs to stop. It troubles me that the BHC policy has been changed, and it troubles me that a board member emailed our superintendent CCing the teachers. You are making people jump through hoops and doubling their work. This helps our children education how? Refer to page 139. It was disrespectful and condescending. It troubles me that you are the cause of these lengthy meetings due to you bringing up repetitive items until you get your way. It troubles me that you speak of the community, that the community has some sort of personal vendetta against you, page 226, when the truth is the community wants this behavior to stop. Please stop it. It troubles me that you are school board members. Respectfully submitted, Christine Cass.
Thank you, Mrs. Costa.
I'm going to stand if that's all right.
Absolutely, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. I'm here, I'm Jim Sullivan. I'm a past school board member for 12 years. I lost last year by a mere 11 votes. I ran for school board 12 years ago, and not with any agenda other than doing what's best for the children. And that approach was learned by attending many meetings long before I became a school board member, when I attended Underhill School, Memorial School, back in the 70s. And I learned that motto from Mr. Colley, who is the person we named this building on, because his main goal was to do what's best for the children. For 12 years I served. Sometimes it's difficult for me to get to meetings. To me, service to the community is number one. And I applaud you for serving. It's not an easy task. Being on the council as well, the Hooksett Historical Society, the Lions Club, being actively involved. I have a full schedule. And I decided to run again last year, but then I realized it was a gentleman who I thought would have the information that would help us with the high school issue. Unfortunately, he decided to step down and not run. Unfortunately, I should have just said, heck with it, I'm going to run again. 11 votes, 234. I come to this meeting, I felt it was proper for me to stay away for a year to let the new board act and so forth. Am I pleased with everything they've done? No. Am I happy with some of the things they've done? Of course. I wrote a op-ed piece in the Van a couple of weeks ago, commenting it was finally that they stood up together, unified, to say to Manchester, we are concerned about what's going on. And we need to take that and continue on with that. In the past, we did make mistakes. Some of the issues that I regret is the JCB policy of assignment. Would I consider those votes saying now? Perhaps. But I think it's important that this board, taking some of the words of that in a way to get back on task. There are issues when you come to a new board, you're not sure what the policy is or procedure. So Mr. Lescar certainly should be asking those questions. If he wasn't, then he's already failed if he did not do that, but he hasn't. For 12 years, I worked with the board, all different views, but at the end of the day, we voted on what was the main issue, which I said is Mr. Colley's motto, doing what's best for the kids. I've been doing this for a long time in the district. My family's been in this, been doing that. For example, just one more point and I'll close, Mrs. Corsos. My grandmother taught in the district for 45 years. So from 1917 to now, my family has been involved in this town that we love, the school district we love. So I urge you to move on, not to move on to push things to a side, but to move on to the basic issues of doing what's best for K through 8. Have we made strides in the last year? I think we have. But we made strides every year since 2000 and every year to the past school board members, whether it Mrs. McHugh, Mr. Peroni, whoever served, to name the many people, as well as the secretary here. So please work together, and that's my goal, is to bring people together if I get appointed to this board, because when I got back on the council, I think I brought that peace of mind to the town, where the council was all over the place. And we don't want this to happen now with the school board. You've gone too far in the last year. Let's not keep going back. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I printed out some handouts for the school board and for Dr. Littlefield and Ms. Pollock. Should I hand them out?
Yes, you can.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson and members of the School Board Committee. My name is Kevin Van Horn. I live at 44 Corvo Drive with my wife Jane. I've been a resident of Hooksett for 17 years. I have a son Jack who attends Memorial School. My son Jack also happens to be a person with autism. He's 9 years old. He's never said a word. I'm probably the only person here tonight that doesn't want to talk about a 480-page PDF. I want to draw the town's public's attention to the town budget committee's decision that impacts our school budget for next year. And personally for me, I want to discuss how, those decisions impact the special education department and how they're paying up front with that decision. I have a number of slides that I've attached to that after my statement, and I was going to address those 2 slides in order. Before I start, I do want to recognize the fact that special education was receiving a 7% increase in budget this year. While the regular education the budget was somewhat flat. I think people would argue with me that I should be thankful for this, and I truly am thankful for this. But I also think that this budget increase is also long overdue. Going off script a little bit, I've worked with many members of the educational community that are here today, and I know some of them cooperate. Personally, my wife and I spent a lot of money to help special education, buy sensory equipment, buy air conditioners so our son could go to summer school when it was 95 degrees in Underhill School. All things that should have been taken care of in the school itself. But if you look at the first slide, the one that says special education is 21% of the budget. I took a look at the town's budget for our school and looked at, and this is real dollars. This isn't proportionate, this is real dollars. The regular education represents 51% of the total budget. Special education represents 21% of our total budget. I don't have a problem with that. But the town budget committee asked the school to cut $377,000 from the school board's appropriation. That $377,000 was cut proportionally. 32% of that came from the regular educational programs, while 27% of the variance of that $377,000 came from special education. That's real dollars. It's not proportionate, that's real dollars. Okay? Getting 51% of the budget and having 32%, taking 32% cut, while getting 21% of the budget and taking a 27% cut. I don't think any reasonable person could think that this cut was fair. I think anybody who looks at this could understand that this cut is disproportionately weighted towards special education. The second slide that I created for you brings this more into relativeness, right? So what I did here was look at the dollars that were cut and took them as a proportion of their total budget. So what this is saying is that special education, the percent that was asked to be cut was almost 2% of the total budget. Regular education was being asked to take a cut of less than 1%. So again, this is relative. Understanding that regular education has a $12 million line item and special education is $5 million. But clearly here, the special education department is being asked to take on a tremendous amount of burden. Now, having a child with special needs, again, you know, I've had the privilege to work with a number of fantastic educators. Many of you guys are in the room here sitting with me. You know, I truly value the hard work. I value the hard work of the school board, the school committee, you know, of our superintendents. You know, but I've also thought in my heart that the town was allocating our precious resources fairly. Currently, I don't know if I believe that still. You know, and I personally, I'm going to do everything in my power to educate the community and make sure that when we create our budgets, we're creating them fairly for all students, including our special education community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Longhorn. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address the board? If there being none?
Madam Chair?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Jessica LaPaglia, 67 Sterling Ave. Sorry, I didn't get your last name. LaPaglia. I'm here tonight. I tend to be one that sits in the room and does a lot of observation. And at the beginning of this meeting, I was embarrassed to sit in this room. As many of you may have been embarrassed to be in front of the room. I would like to thank all of you for dedicating your time. And I can say that I'm here to support Jen Legier in nomination for school board member. I would also like to say that I would, sorry, my nerves, I think I get nervous sitting up being in front of some of my neighbors, but I would like to just say that I would like the board to be focused on education. I understand that there is politics that comes along with this. I know it's a board, and I understand that there are things that go along, but I would really like to just make sure that we stay focused on education, and especially the high school issues. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I just would like to address some of the concerns that came up here.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I thought the institute policy that we could answer questions and not comment. Isn't that what we're doing? If people at public, excuse me, if people at public input posed questions, we would get together and answer those questions.
Yes, and in the past, we've done it in both this section at the end where people have addressed questions they could answer right away, or we waited to later in the agenda where it says response to public comment.
And I'm fine with that. Mrs. Atkinson said she wanted to address concerns that have come up. And I was very clear, and I thought the board agreed at the last meeting, that we really needed to look for that question mark. And I think you yourself said when you look through the written stuff that's submitted to us, you look for the question mark for us to respond. Because I think if we go into responding to concerns, we're going to get far afield. I think we should answer questions. So I just wanted to bring that up before we started. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Cheryl?
I think we've given this board a lot of leeway on different occasions, and so I'm going to take that leeway at this point. It has been a very difficult period of time.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr.
We
Crowley.
just discussed what we had agreed upon.
She's answering questions and concerns of the public. There were questions in what the public was asking.
Madam Chair, we answer as a board.
Yes. We have to talk about these questions, and she just said she's going to take the leeway. So I would ask that we consider
Mrs.
these
Axton, would you like
questions.
to speak as a member of the public?
No, I don't. I consider myself a board member right now, and I do believe that I have the opportunity to respond to the community's input right now. We have done that on many other occasions.
Yes, we have.
We've let other board members
Your,
comment.
your objections are so noted.
So I would first like to start out
Madam
with.
Chair, I just want to make a point of
I'd like
order
to-
that she's not speaking for me as a board member right now. She can do whatever she chooses. Thank you.
I would first like to thank Mr. Van Horn for coming up. It has been brought to my attention also by the Castor family, some issues that I'm not very familiar with. And I am planning to make it more of my role to become more educated regarding the special education. And that I will definitely make it sort of my goal this year to understand more of the budget and how those budget monies go that way. That would be the first thing to address. I also would like to address, it sounds as though the public is very concerned on how we've been proceeding, that it has been somewhat embarrassing. I too it's been very hard for me on several occasions sitting up here with this board. I will also continue to try to maintain my professionalism. I will also try to maintain not joining in on the social media and try to forge forward with more professionalism for this board so that it is not disfractured and so that our students can feel safe in our community and know that this board is doing everything we can to help them. Thank you.
I'd now like my opportunity to comment on a few things that came up. First of all, the budget cuts that were referred to, I would really think that you need to go to the budget committee about that. Because the budget that was adopted was the budget committee's budget. It's not really ours. And I think it's good to bring those concerns here, but we can't really answer that because we produced a budget that, as you see, was different than the one that we got. I will stop there. That's all I really wanted to say. I would object to that this board is not going to be able to move forward when last week we had a constructive conversation about this very thing we're doing right now, and then we decide to just go off and do it a different way. So we need to start following our own rules to move ahead with this board.
Each other board member.
Madam Chair, I do have a lot to add. However, I respect the rules that this board goes by, and that's what I've been trying to do, is make sure we establish rules and then we follow them. If we establish rules, Madam Chair, and then at the whim of the chair or the whim of one of us board members, we want to act and speak to the public as if we represent the board, we're violating our own rules. So are we going to pick and choose which rules we're going to adhere to? I will not partake in it. I have a lot to say, but I'm not going to partake
Why are
in
you
it.
speaking if you're not going
I'm
to partake?
speaking to you, Madam Chair, because you asked me a question. You asked me if I would like to speak, because you said all the other board members have spoken, you have a chance to speak, and I disagree with what you say. Thank you.
So noted. Yeah, now to item 4 on the agenda. No, we're on 5, I'm sorry. It's in item number 5, a public hearing to consider the expenditure of money from the Technology Expendable Trust Fund. Mrs. Lassard, do you? I'm sorry. I'm a fairly new chair and I've not had a public hearing. I need to confer how I open a public hearing.